Day 2 of Insights 2019. We had a fantastic day yesterday, so we were very glad to go for take 2.
We have to be ready to admit in our society other agents that are not humans.
We are trying to create a layer that we supported with data to improve our business intelligence.
What we did is to use data science to see if we could really help the bank account of Portuguese consumers.
If you look into the internet, you would be surprised based on data how many chatbots in the healthcare are being made just to help people in their minds.
If you want to take the full potential out of AI to focus on the real important topics like climate change, then we have to invest in this topic.
We're having an enormous difficulty matching technology and our culture. We have to be big and we have to be fast.
Well, good afternoon. I was just told that we had 484 people on these 2 days, which is actually amazing. And more amazing is to actually see the C-level that we had with the knowledge and awareness of what we've been talking about for the last 2 days. So the problems that people have been talking about the last 2 days, and to see that reflected and heard by the C-level, it's actually amazing. And that, in fact, even it was said yesterday that the business leaders don't relate much or don't care much about technology and about data, and we just saw that that is not the true representation. So there is definitely concern. And the title itself, and Fernando, you did steal a couple of my words. We do talk every now and then. My question was, if it's not in the balance sheet, and it is gold, and gold is an asset, what are we going to do to actually become an asset and be on a balance sheet? This was spoken about for the last 2 days, and I must actually say I'm not going to go through a summary. I'm just going to do a very quick ramp-up because we've got from the team of Live Sketching that did an amazing summary of what the sessions were. So, in fact, yesterday I was taking notes and took pictures of those live sketches, and at night when I confronted the notes, they were so similar that I thought, why bother to take notes? So do go through them, and it is very interesting to see how they actually do it. So I would actually separate in 4 different areas what we've been talking about in the last 2 days. One is actually projects, how we actually apply methodologies, how we can take more productively or not the results to actually give back to the business. The other one is all about data, and whether it's inconsistent or not inconsistent, but how we actually apply the data and the usage that we actually apply that data to. Then we've got another theme that actually went into the trust and fairness of things and the ethics. And those would be the very 4 that I would very quickly summarize. So when we talk about projects, what I heard was there is no right and wrong way. I actually heard people taking different approaches where they do a waterfall, others do agile, others do algorithms, they do data transformation, some do apply big data, others apply small data. They probably both complement, whether it's small data and big data. And Sandra gave us an excellent example how small data actually works. And when we actually start a project and we don't know what we're actually looking for, then big data is fine until we focus in, we aim in, and then we go for small data. Or if we have hypotheses that we want to test, small data is fine, and then let's try and see how we can massify. So both actually work in a good complement. But what actually resides here is the true essence that was on that presentation. The gold, the raw material, the essence. So if we're saying, that's what I heard in those days, and like these 2 days, and like I said, I'm doing a very brief ramp-up. If what we said was we cannot work, we cannot produce results, if data is not consistent, if data is not accurate, then we do need to put some value to it. We do need to understand that if we don't have that data, if it doesn't have the quality, it's going to cost us money. And it was actually said, I think it was Maria João, yeah, that actually said that. So we do have ways of actually putting money and value to it. Then the other thing is, when we talk about gold, gold is a physical thing. When we mine it, it's physical. We can see it. Sometimes it takes expert eye, but we can see it. With data, it's not the case. Lots of times it's actually telling us things that we don't want to see it. We don't actually, even sometimes it's not that we don't want to see it, we're looking for something, and that something doesn't reflect, it's not there. It actually gives us some other pattern. And our perceptions don't allow us to actually see it. So that actually takes us into the human side, the trust that we actually put into things as well. So when we talk about the quality of data, and to actually think about the gold that we can actually put on a balance sheet, then maybe we should think about the ownership, the governance of that data. SPA is actually doing a great program. I actually thought it was a very good program that they actually presented yesterday on actually launching the data-driven, not just for the university, but actually to help the companies as well. And I think that is really very, very good. Because if we don't have the ownership of data, and I heard your question, but the company does create value on top of a loan. If we do not have the ownership of data, we're not going to make, in reality, a value for us or for the client as well. Why? Because in reality, if I have an asset, and let's take a property for example, let's take the university. This space is well used. It's monetized. So if I have real estate, if I have a building, and I don't know its conditions, I don't know when last there was maintenance to it, who uses, how it's used, I'm not managing anything. I don't know the conditions, and that's what an asset really requires. So our thought, and what we've been actually talking about yesterday, the lack of inconsistency, is something that we need to make the bridge and actually get into the governance that SPE was talking about. Then there was the move into the algorithms. So now we have the data, and there is the move into the algorithms. A couple of years ago, and I mean, you can see that I've been around for a long time. A couple of years ago, we started with this wave. We cannot go on a gut feel. We've got to have data to actually provide and sustain our decisions. Now, nobody could actually explain the gut feel. Okay, it was just exactly what it was, a gut feel. Now, it is very difficult, obviously, to explain some of the models, some of the decisions, and there are decisions all along the way, because it's a transformation process. Exactly like the gold. You get the gold, you melt it, and as soon as you melt it, it's got a different value. You make rings, we make earrings, we make all sorts of things, and the value gets transformed as well. So in reality, now, when we think about that, we've got to think, well, these are decisions that are made on this transformation process. Can we explain all of them? Pedro Saleiro actually mentioned one of the platforms that's available, and I think it's actually very good. It's free, Aequitas, for model fairness, and also to actually select some models. There's probably others. I know some that are not free, but it is something that we should also invest in. Then we move on to IE, and there was the first definition that I actually heard, which I think is fabulous, is IE requires data concepts and correlations. Now that's really all about data, the management of data, what it means to the business, what it means in the contextual form. So if we don't have that base, that foundation, that ground base, can we do IE? Maybe with some difficulty. Can IE in reality become the best of us that it can be? If I think about myself as a person, and it was said as human beings have, I don't know how many millions of data attached to it, but as a human being, as a body, if I have all those millions, plus the person I am, plus what I say, plus my behavior, that is definitely data that I value. So that value that I have has got to be respected. And the respect that we're actually saying, and it was actually mentioned as well, is I want to share maybe that information because of convenience. I want to share that information because of protection. SIBS was here, and they talked about fraud. Now, how many of you have actually had somebody calling you, especially SIBS, saying that your card was copied, cloned? I have. And so that protection is something that we do want. The other that we obviously, most of us say is we don't mind and we want to share if it's for the good of society. So if it's for the good of society, it's another area that we actually move in. So any information that we can think about ourselves, and that obviously is because we need to be educated as well, it's a step forward to move in the right direction. There was, before I actually get into the ethics and the trust, there was another theme which was education. And I didn't come in the very first two yesterday, but when I came, the presentation that was it was on health, and it actually ended saying that the doctors actually need to be more data scientists aware. Well, I was actually talking to a fourth-year student, medicine student in August, and being from IT, I was talking about technology and how some technology is actually affecting and improving the life of the human beings. And I noticed that he was very much there. So then I explored, and in fact, he is fourth-year medical student, but he's actually learning R, Python, he's learning models, and he doesn't go to theoretical lessons, okay? So I said, so what you do during that time? I do sports, and I do assemble PCs sometimes. So I thought to myself, well, can somebody that's learning to be a doctor dedicate time on those things? And I thought, well, maybe yes, because if I have gadgets in my body one of these days, maybe if a person that's on the other side knows how to work with them, I'll feel more comfortable. So there's a lot of change that's actually also been happening in the education side. One thing that did worry me, though, when I heard all the talks, and it was actually on a survey, if the data scientists actually think more on technology and projects and are not so much, I wouldn't say interested, but are not so much in close liaison to the business or to that language, are we actually going to reduce the gap? And we either get then the user community learning the tech side, and the data scientists that are techies somehow will drop out or have to invest in some sort of specialization, but there's definitely some gap that we need to consider, and especially the people that are in IT. We do need to bridge bridge the gap and reduce it. As it kept saying, he doesn't know about anything about data scientists or data science, is on communication, but one thing that it's imperative is actually communication. And the data scientist, it's not just the data visualization that was, we actually presented a couple of disciplines, but when we look at data visualization, it's also in the manner of communication. So we need to know how to actually communicate. And when that was presented, this is a community. The challenge was, let's all work together and let's define what academy needs to be. Let's define what ethics needs to be also for the community. It was very good, and I really thought it was very interesting that although this was data science, although there's a lot of technology behind it, most of the presentations actually aimed at resolving problems. And it was not so focused on the products, but even when the products were presented, it was on resolving problems. And it was also very interesting to see that we very quickly went into the human side. Okay, and when we talk about IE, and there was a couple of definitions, Professor Linda Oliveira actually gave some very good ones. When we talk about IE, it's really an extension of us. And if it is an extension of us, ethics, it's not for IE, ethics is for us. And those ethics, obviously, and this is said during the 2 days. I'm sort of doing a ramp up, but there is one thing that I'd like to share with you. I was reading the other day, I do read a bit, quite a bit, and there's a lot of things that sometimes interest me, especially when it's related to the human body and to the human life cycle, because I do tend to relate a lot to the human body. And the life cycle, there was one thing that was said by a 10-year-old kid, because there's a program that's been done by a researcher, Professor Blakely Payne, with a middle-class kids, so between 9 and 10 years old. And this was a 10-year-old that said, IE, now this explaining to the others, IE is kind of like, so this is exactly how they talk, a baby or a human brain, because it has to learn. And we heard about supervised and supervised learning. We all know with our kids, sometimes we teach them, other times they learn by themselves. And when they learn by themselves, we have to conduct them. We have to actually show them the way as well, if we're actually aware of it, obviously that is. And it stores, and it uses that information to figure things out. So I thought it was so simple that I actually had to share with you, because it actually consolidates quite a lot. Now, there is one thing that in this conference, it was slightly touched, but I think I actually launched that challenge maybe for next year, which is actually the role of leadership. Because Deborah actually ended yesterday saying, because we can, should I? Now, that role is in fact all of us, but the leader especially needs to actually take that role, assume it, and actually move forward. Because when Deborah said that, and she used the unsubscribed from a site as an example, and the question was, is it legal for them to continue getting data from us? And I actually thought to myself, would it be legal or ethically correct for, and you also use some charity institutions, for a charity institution, for example, to get money from drug lords? And I'll actually end the session with this. There's lots of challenges, lots of opportunities, and every opportunity brings challenges. So I did a very quick ramp up. I did go over time. What I'd like to invite you all, we actually have some cocktails now, and obviously this was just a little bit of in between us and the drinks and the weekend. So have a very good weekend as well, and do please join us for the drinks. Okay?